What's going on? What's going on? We back. Let's get into some boxing. So Devin Haney versus Gamboa. They had a fight this Saturday. It was all right. It was okay. Um, there was a lot of talk that happened before this fight. A lot of talk. First, even way before the fight, Gamboa had just joined PBC, had a fight, knocked the dude out, looked spectacular. Um, Javante Tank Davis was going to fight him at 135 pounds. It was going to be the first time he was ever at that weight. And there was a lot of talk. Devin Haney's father, Devin Haney himself, was talking about how it was a horrible fight, how, he's old. Eddie Hearn said the same thing. They said, how just the guy is old, he's past his prime, and how horrible of a fight it was. Javante Tank Davis has a fight in Atlanta, place sells out, all the stars show up, and they have a spectacular fight where Javante Tank Davis pretty much beats the brakes off of Gamboa the whole night, and a defensive Gamboa, by the way, and eventually stops him. Gamboa's hurts his leg, dropped a whole bunch of times, and Devin Haney, his father, and Eddie Hearn all laughed at Javante Tank Davis. They laughed at the fact that Gamboa lasted that long against him, and they laughed at his performance against him. So then all of a sudden, we all know about the whole Gary Russell situation, some questionable contracts or term sheets got sent, fight didn't happen, and all of a sudden, Devin's fighting Gamboa. Gamboa, who had been hurt, hadn't had a single fight since then. That was a person that, and got stopped. That was a person that Eddie Hearn, they chose to have Devin fight. They didn't go after a Campbell. They didn't go after, and I understand they're supposed to fight Ryan in order to get a shot. Well, you could have given him a direct shot instead of him having to fight Ryan. You could have offered Ryan the shot. If Ryan said no, you could just give it to Campbell. That was one option. He could have fought Fortuna. He could have, Fortuna's camp said they would never offer any deal whatsoever to fight Devin, and they felt that actually that Devin ducked them, and they had choice words that I won't repeat, but they weren't very happy about that fact that they didn't get that fight. So he fights Gamboa. The fight's set up, the fight's coming up, and they said that they were going to dominate that fight. They expected to stop Gamboa, and they expected to beat him in a fashion that neither Tank nor Terrence Crawford, were able to do with them. That was the whole selling point. What they were going to do to this man, how they're going to just outperform, the other fighters who had fought Gamboa and beat Gamboa. That was a talking point. So the fight comes up, and a lot of pressure is now put on Devin to have a certain type of performance, especially with the words that were said about these other fighters and what was said about the performance of those other fighters. They even put down the performance that Teofimo Lopez had against Lomachenko, talking about how much better they would have done in that particular fight. So now comes this particular fight between him and Gamboa, and we didn't see what they were talking about. We didn't see the same type of performance that any better performance than Terrence Crawford had against Gamboa, who had stopped Gamboa. We didn't see that type of performance that Javante Tank Davis had. And you can tell physically Gamboa didn't look there. Go look at pictures of Gamboa when he walked into that ring against Tank. Look, the way he looked in the weigh-in, and then look at the way Gamboa looked at the weigh-in against Devin, and the way he looked inside of that. Physically, two different fighters. And Gamboa just kind of, he was in there, he was trying to throw the jab, Devin hit him on a couple of shots, whether it be an uppercut, little checks, little straights. You know, Gamboa was trying to use the Philly shell a lot. Also, I don't know, but he was so because he's doing it, he's open, so he's getting caught every once in a while with shots, but he wasn't phased. He had certain spots where he would grab and hold. You know, actually, I believe he fought one more offensive fight against actually Devin, believe it or not, than he did against Tank. Against Tank, he really, for the most part, was trying to keep those hands up. You know, and from what I particularly saw, if that was Tank in there against that version of Gamboa, if that was Tio in there against that version of Gamboa, either way, they would, well, Tank already stopped him, but they would have stopped him. And Devin wasn't able to hurt him in any way. Devin wasn't able to stop him in any way. From what I'm hearing, from what people are saying, and from what I saw, I think it actually brought his stock down. He was getting put into this place of a pedestal when it comes to skill and talent, as if he was up there with these other guys. We saw the performance that Tio had against a pound for pound fighter, Lomachenko, two belt holder. We saw what Gervonta Tank Davis did against Leo Santa Cruz, a champion at 130 pounds. And we saw what he did against Gamboa. So in order to keep up, you have to have a certain level of performance. And especially since you chose to fight this guy, which you take as the small litter that, when you talk about the levels of fighters you could have fought, from where Gamboa was and what he experienced in his last fight, Gamboa's stock had dropped down to here. And instead of going for, Gary Russell, which was up here, instead of going for like a Campbell, Fortuna, just, a couple slots down, but still right there, you chose to come down here. And then the performance that we saw, just when it's comparing you to these other guys, it just didn't cut it. Especially when it also comes to the things that were being said before that fight. Tank was #1 trending on IG, on Yahoo, on YouTube for a couple of days after his fight. A week plus, people are still talking about that performance. No one's talking about Devin's performance anymore today. No one is even talking about it the day after like that. It was very lackluster. And I also think in that fight, he actually showed, I believe, that a lot of openings that he has available for other fighters. And almost kind of push into a position where you're like, oh, okay, I see why they didn't do that Gary Russell deal. And I see why they're not gonna be making any kind of real attempt to make that fight. They're not gonna make an attempt to make that fight again. Absolutely not. Because we see those holes. We see the holes. He has a lot of holes in his game, and he has a lot of work that he needs to do. From what I saw in that fight, I don't see him beating Tank. I don't see him beating Tio. I think Tio can forget knocking him out. I think Tio outboxes him. I think Tank, with someone like a Tank, when you don't have anything, you don't have power that he has to respect, he's gonna break you down. He's gonna get to your body, and he's gonna get up top, and he's gonna put you out. And I believe that's what would happen in a fight like that, even at 135 pounds. I think he'd be able to break that guard, slip punches, take it to his body, catch him up top, and hurt him bad. I believe that's what would happen in that particular fight. But no, will those fights happen though? I don't believe so. I believe the next fight, Tank is probably going to fight Ryan Garcia next. And I believe Tio is going to be kept in-house. I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be shocked if he skipped out of the zone even. Depending on what happens with Canelo, and if Canelo stays at the zone or if he goes somewhere else, I wouldn't be shocked if Ryan went right after him, followed him out. I wouldn't be surprised if Golden Boy Campbell was supposed to fight Ryan Garcia. That fight looks like it might not happen now. I wouldn't be shocked if they went straight into the Tank fight. Tio, I think he's going to go up to 140 and probably fight for undisputed at 140 pounds. Which is going to kind of leave Devin on this island of nothing in the zone that no one watches. That's not gonna, push, push you as far as promoting you at all, and just leave you into this desert of nothing. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, I guess he's supposed to. I'm guessing he's probably going to fight for Tuna next. That's I believe is going to be his next fight, and hopefully he's able to, to give us a better performance in that particular fight. Because I done got some work to do. Got some work to do, especially when it comes to these guys and the performances that they just had. The performance that we saw in that particular night against Gamboa. When comparing him to these guys right now, it's not on the same level. But we'll see what the future holds. There's always tomorrow. But for now, like, subscribe, share. I'm out.